ri ga sa ri ga ma pa ga ni sa ni ga pa ma ga ri sa ga ma pa ga ni sa ni ga pa ma ga ri sa. Sa ni da ni da pa da pa ma pa ga ma pa da ni da pa ma ga ma pa ga ma ga ri sa. Sa ni da ni da pa da pa ma pa ga ma pa ga ni da pa ma ga ma pa ga ma ga ri sa. Sa ni da ni da pa da pa ma pa ga ma pa ga ni da pa ma ga ma pa ga ma ga ri sa. Sa ni da ni da pa da pa ma pa ga ma pa ga ni da pa ma ga ma pa ga ma ga ri sa. Vanakkam, welcome, Sushvatakam, Swagatam, and welcome to Sampurna Australia YouTube channel. Dear friends, you have heard one of the most beautiful classical music of Indian music called the Carnatic music. We just sang that music today. How is this music going to help you get out of depression is the program that we are going to have today. So on behalf of Sampurna Australia, I would like to welcome all the Sampurna Australia viewers for the Jeevan Jyoti seminar today. Today, as usual, we have some special guests who are joining us for the Jeevan Jyoti Sampurna Australia Health Seminar. We have Josephine Charles, who is joining us. We have Russell George, who is joining us. And just before they could say hello to you, I want to introduce our program. Week after week, we are running this program at 3 p.m. Australia time, from 3 to 4 p.m. And if you have any questions on this program, I would like you to kindly contact us in the given number in the flyer that you see on screen. And also, if you have any comments, suggestions, please write down the comment in the comment section in the YouTube channel. So we will know what to serve you and what to speak. And amidst these two lovely guests, we have another guest who is also joining us. Her name is Kay Fisher. Kay, good to see you, Kay. Vanakkam. And nice to see you in that very lovely Indian dress. It suits you so much. It more or less looks like an Indian classical wear. So I'd like to welcome three of our guests, Josephine, Russell, and Kay. I give the time to our guests today. So, friends, what are we going to talk today?
Um, I think it probably people who know Carnatic music would have enjoyed just a basic singing or basic notes from Carnatic music. I and my husband have been having a privilege to learn Carnatic music over the last few months. And as we are talking about depression, Russell, I came across this facts on how music can help depression. Any thoughts on that, Russ?
Yeah, you guys are the professionals. Even Kay over there are the musicians, and they're asking me. I don't know how this works, but yeah, no, it's really good. Just learning, and we've been discussing some of this before, even now and even before. We just know how music plays such an important role in our own mental health. What do we do when we are feeling down? When we are feeling when we're not feeling so good, or when we want to share our joy? What do we normally do?
I think we sing.
Yeah, we sing, or we listen to music, or we something or the other. Music conveys that our emotions in a special way. It is able to carry that from ourselves, maybe to other people as well.
Yeah.
And I think music has that ability that to just lighten the heart, or and give that joy even when we are feeling down. So music, normal music itself is such a powerful thing. And then classical music that you guys talked about now is another level altogether.
Yeah, thanks,
and
Russ.
Kay as well has some music that she'll have to share at the end. So I want her to share that at the end, but that's really cool.
Charles, I remember when we were discussing before coming online, you were talking about a story where you heard a king, classical music, something around that story. Can you share it with us, please?
Yes, that's an interesting story. I remember in some of those ancient palaces in India, every king has a poet to sing for them. Very lately, I found that the kings usually have poets to come and sing for them for many reasons. One of the reasons is to praise the king. Some poets come over there and sing some poetic hymns and songs in praise of the king and to receive gifts from the king. And other many reasons is to prove their musical skills and the skills of the art and culture. A nation is built not just only on economy; they are built on arts, music, culture, and this classical, very impressive music, especially in terms of classical dance and music. These musical instruments, they do have those concerts in the palaces. So to compete and it's just not about competition with the others. It's about proving their musical skills. To prove their worth of the classical nature of the subcontinent.
The culture.
The culture, okay. And people ask questions about whether you have done well in your singing, whether you have danced accordingly to the rhythm or danced accordingly to the kind of singing that you have expressed. So just to prove those classical nature, arts and culture, arts and music, fine arts is part of proving a nation's worth. Okay, so what happens usually in all the kingdom in India? India is just not one nation; it was split across. It is union of states. So in all those palaces, they always had the poets and this classical arts. So in one among this very well famous king is called the Rajaraja Cholan.
Is he from north or is he from the south?
He is from the South India, one of the very famous kings. From a place called Tanjore. Tanjore, we call it Tanjavur in Tamil. They have some huge, beautiful edifice called the Tanjavur Periya Koil. Periya Koil means the temple, the biggest temple, the largest or the very solemn temple. Now, what is so special about this temple is this temple has been recognized by the UNESCO for being an UNESCO Heritage Center. The reason because Rajaraja Cholan, when he built this temple, he built in such a way that Not the shadow will fall on the ground no matter when and where the sunlight is.
Yeah.
The sun is up. You will not find the shadows on the ground.
Yeah, so that's built in a way that whichever time of the day you go to the temple, you will not see the shadow of the temple on
Underground.
the ground.
So
Yeah.
yes, in this kingdom, when Rajaraja Cholan was ruling, and there was also lately came another king. These are called the Cheras, Cholas, and the Pandyas. Okay, there are three dimensions of rulership in this state. Now the state is Tamil Nadu. Previously, it was not so. It is called the Madras Presidency during the British time, and even before that, it was called the Chera Chola Pandyas, the land of the Chera Chola Pandyas. Chera Chola Pandyas are known for classical music. And they took this classical music not just within the kingdom, they took all across the world. Across the world, wherever you go, you'll find classical music, even in China and Cambodia and so on. Even in Thailand, there's traditional classical music. So in this kingdom, there lately came a king called King Sarafoji. We call this Saraboji Mannar. Okay. In the rulership of King Sarafoji, he had a poet called Shastriya. Shastriyas are usually this very welcomed, very solemn, holy poets. These poets you sing in these palaces for the kings. And lately, this Shastriya came to know about the divine spirit of God. He came to know about the true nature of God, the true rulership of God, and he started to understand the true love of God. So he's an appointed poet in Sarafoji's kingdom, but then now for a while he was singing for the king. Okay, he used to write songs and compose songs in praise of the king and the kingdom. Now lately he got to know about the true God. Now he got a realization in his heart that if there is a King of Kings in this earth, the eternal, the divine God, then why should I praise a king on this earth? It's not worth praising a king on this earth. Rather, I would praise the King of Kings. And that's when he started to write songs, the divine musical songs for the God of the heaven. So that's when there's many classical, so-called the divine music comes from this Shastriya, who was the late poet of King Sarafoji's kingdom. Now, what happened lately when once the King Sarafoji called Shastriya to come and sing for him, and he denied singing for King Sarafoji. And he said, yes, all this while I praised you, I sang for you, but now I came to know about a true God, an eternal God. So from now on, I'm not going to sing for you, but I'm going to sing for the King of Kings. And then he was executed from the palace, and he was thrown away from the palace, and he did not mind, of course. He got to know about the King of Kings, the blessing of singing for the King of Kings. Now, what is so beautiful about this Shastriya is he did not just mind of these earthly blessings, but he thought about the blessings of the eternal kingdom, the heavenly blessings, the divine mercies that fall upon him. Then he started to take this classical music and started to compose deeply and started to use classical lyrics, divine lyrics into classical music. That's how today many classical songs, even today, those certain group of people who believe in the true God, okay, they follow the hymns of the Shastriya. I know one of the song. It says, Stotiram Seivene, Rachagane Stotiram Seivene, Rachagane Stotiram Seivene, Rachagane Stotiram Seivene. That means I will praise only the King of Kings. I will praise only the King of Kings. Okay, then there are many songs, thousands of songs has come out of this Shastriya after he came to know about this divine Lord who blessed him with this divine gifts, and he brought this. He of course mingled both the classical and the divine together. That's an element of why there is certain religion that has classical values in the means to worship the real true God. So it has so much blessings. This is just a historical story.
Thank
Yeah,
you, thank you. Thanks, Charles, for sharing that. So, what I hear from this is classical music or music was used
Mhm.
to calm people. Music was used to calm people. And we can see from history that kings, when they were in their court, when they had to go through a point in their life where they have lost a battle or they've got famine in their country and they themselves were depressed, music came in hand, especially when we see hear stories from ancient times. We have even from the religious writings that talks about a king who was actually depressed, and the courtiers actually advised him to call someone who would play for him, and it relieved him of his depression
Yeah.
or his low moods, I would say. Russell, is every music going to do that, or is there some particular? Because in the current world, we've got like I don't know. I'm not a musical student, but I know a little. You've got jazz, you've got Western. I don't know. Probably K can add more to say the different types of music that's available. K.
Um, well, I just know from what I've heard of, you've got your classical, you've got country
Okay.
and western, you have pop, rock, jazz,
K
and
is
then
so
you've
good.
got punk. So
Thank you. I don't remember any of that, but thank you, Kay. So, Russell, put all these music like pop, country, jazz, whatever other things that Kay has mentioned. Do you think all those would help? If anyone, someone who's depressed, if they listen to those kind of music, would that help them with their depression?
That's a good question.
hmm,
I guess from my experience, and I remember this, and I don't know, maybe you can all share your own experience, or maybe something will come to mind. When I remember when I was at a friend's place, and my friend used to like country music, uh, country western country music, and so she was listening to it, and it was during holiday time, and we were all together and we were listening, and a song stuck in my head, and then I was listening to it after, or just playing it in my mind, singing the same song again and again, but it was a sad song.
Okay.
And have you noticed in yourself, maybe when you're sad you listen to sad music? Yeah, isn't it?
yes.
It gives you some
Solace.
solace,
It's,
but it keeps you down still at the same time, and it's like a trap almost.
yes,
And
definitely.
it feels good, but it still doesn't make you feel joyful, or doesn't get you out of that dark place, maybe, or
Yeah.
the sad place, or the
Yeah.
sorry place where you are.
Yeah.
You felt that.
Yeah.
I know that,
I
and
have to.
I just sharing that what I remember listening and again, and it felt good, but I'm like, I was just thinking, and I was like, "Oh, should I be listening to this?" Like, it was hard because it felt good at the moment in that time. But I'm like, oh, but I'm not feeling like nothing is changing in my mind. Nothing is like I'm in that state, and
You're enjoying
I'm
that
enjoying
state.
the sorrow.
Yeah, that's
If
right.
that makes sense. I don't know how that, but that's how music. So I mean, it was feeling good, but it was keeping me in a place which is not the best, and I don't want to be there. We don't want to all necessarily be there.
I think it would, can I say that we start enjoying the depressed side?
Yeah.
We start staying there.
Yeah, we find joy
Yeah,
there. I don't know
joy.
how.
I don't
See, I remember
Yeah, like-
when I was in my school days, these boys used to go behind some of these girls, who love those girls, who like those girls, and the girls reject. They come back and listen to some of the sad songs.
Yeah.
Okay, they come and play a song. They just go. In those days when we were in school, we did not have this phone to listen to those songs, or YouTube. We did not have YouTube, but the only place we can go listen to music is go to a tea stall, go sit there, and there plays this FM. That's the only source of music. Otherwise, if there is a wedding happening somewhere, they play some music. So usually for this sad occasions when your proposal is rejected, people go
Yeah.
weird and with tears, they go sit near the tea stall and try to listen to those stories. We boys used to have fun. If there is a young boy who's sitting in the tea stall, we immediately think that somebody rejected. Yes, because hey, you quickly ask them which girl rejected you today, because usually boys go there to not just take tea, but to listen to the sad
Yeah.
song. They like to remain in that sad state.
What is the name of the movie that we know that one? The Shah Rukh Khan acted in that movie, and where he, Devdas.
Oh,
That's like
yeah.
this classical example, Devdas, right?
Yeah, that's right.
If you know the little bit of the story, like he was, and the sorrow and just the songs, and we listen to that song.
Yeah.
And when we are hurt and we are down,
Yeah.
and then we kind of, the only way we can get some solace, that was a good word, solace, to have some kind of, when we are down, when things are going wrong.
It is very strange what music can do to our brain. Even though we know it's not a good place for us to be, because we don't want to be depressed. But certain kind of music can actually change your brain waves. That's what scientists say and researchers say. Depending on the type of music you listen to or you continuously listen to, can change your brain function. Now we are talking on the topic of depression, and we as a team would not advise, or if you are someone who's listening to certain music, we would want you to take a step back and consider what kind of music you're listening to. Because I was reading a research paper not long ago. It's from this book, what we are referring to, from Dr. Neil Nedley, Depression: The Way Out. There was a research that was done among people where they took people who were depressed and they got them to listen to music, different types of music, to see how people responded. So to a group, they were given to listen to classical music, something similar to the one that we sang earlier. It is Indian classic, and I'm sure Kay can talk about Western classical. I'm not a student of it, or neither do I know about Western classical. I'm sure that is purely amazing to listen to. So these group of people were assigned classical music, and other people were assigned country, jazz, or other type of music. When they evaluated these people, when they looked at their mind, they looked at their mood and how they were responding to their depression, they found these people who listened to classical music, their mind was more open. They had a better outlook of life, and they responded more easily to the lifestyle changes that were recommended to people, in comparing to the group who listened to pop. Or rock music or any other type of music.
So it was the most effective.
That was the most effective, because given the other types of music are actually damaging our brain. So it's very hard for people who are depressed to come out of depression when we are listening to certain kinds of music. I remember when you talked about listening to music, I remember when I was a child, I don't know the meaning of the song. One evening, I don't know, similar to your experience, I listened to a song somewhere and I started humming that song. And my father caught me and gave me some special treatments for what I was singing. He said, "Where did you learn this song?" Because later on, now I understand the meaning of the song. And the music was very, what is that? Exactly same thing, keeping you in that low mood, but making you enjoy. It's like if having alcohol and you enjoy it continuously.
It's more or less like an addiction. It
That's
adds to
right.
your,
Yeah.
it adds to your addiction, adds to your sadness, and it doesn't allow you to grow. I know some of my friends who were still in the same state, and then that led them to smoking.
Yeah.
Then they went on to drink alcohol because they want to have something comfortable to
Solace.
their sorrow. So music is the beginning probably. If there is some sickness, some sadness, then they try to listen to music and still doesn't comfort them, then they go on to smoke and then drink and ruin their life. We should be
So,
very
so
careful.
the right kind of music can have a really good impact, but the wrong kind can kind of lead us in that track where we go from one to the next to the next. And it's really scary.
That's definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, have you got anything to add about music and how Western classicals? Because I have very less knowledge about Western classical. Any insight or any thought for our viewers?
So Western classical, what we know today originated during the 1700s, the 1800s, not so much the 1900s, because that's when classical music started to become more modern. So that's when jazz was invented. So you'll find a lot of the later classical composers like Offenbach and his famous song Can Can. they classical, but they moved it more into jazz because that was what was becoming in style. But the original composers, they just composed beautiful melodies. And quite often, you know, you think of Mozart, who was only a little boy. He was 9 or 7 when he composed his first piece of music.
Wow.
The name slips my mind, but he was so brilliant at his job that he ended up getting commissioned by, you know, princes and priests and everything to write music for them. So today, classical music is very much encouraged if you're studying, because, as Jocelyn said, it's shown to calm people down, to help them study. And I know myself, when I've been preparing for exams or assignments, I do play classical music, and I find my focus is a lot better when I'm listening to that than if I was listening to, say, you know, even country and western for that matter. That's not to say that country and western is bad. There is some very, very nice country music. A lot of them are hymns, so the hymns you sing in church. A lot of country music artists are making CDs of them where it's just them and a guitar. And it's just really beautiful, very nice to listen to on a Sabbath afternoon. I remember when I was going to church as a child, my mum, my sister, my dad, they'd always have a CD of one of these artists in the car. And it was very nice, you know, in the morning. We had to be there early because my dad, you know, worked the sound. So we had to go there early. And, you know, the morning glow as we're driving to church with these classical and country hymns through the car was just beautiful.
Oh, thank you, Kay. That was a big information for us, because I didn't know when classical music was invented, Western classical was invented, and how, what is that, Bach and Mozart. And thank you for that. I probably people out there who actually are into medicine or who knows a little bit about the medicine and the politics that's in America, you would have heard about this, you would have come across his name, Ben Carson. I remember reading his book, Gifted Hands, and he talks about classical music, because he and his wife, I think his wife is a very accomplished musician. She's a violinist, I think. And he says whenever he performs surgery, he's a neurosurgeon. He's a neurosurgeon, and he says whenever he goes to perform surgery, he plays classical music because it helps him to concentrate on what he does, and it also smooths the brain. And especially being a brain surgeon, he actually because it's very important for him to focus on what he does. So that's very important, because when we look at depression, it's all thoughts. I just want to come and finish what we are talking about today about depression. I just want to go back and recap. What is depression? Depression comes to people who have gone through very terrible times in their lives, probably poverty, they have lost a loved one, they have lost money, they have lost health, they go into depressive moods. Going back and thinking of these things, at times we have this habit of going in circles, keep thinking about what has happened. We find it very hard to go past that thought. For example, I had lost my father, it's about 14 years ago, but many times I go back and I'm like a broken record. I just keep going and thinking the same thing. So it's actually creating a very strong or deep depressive thoughts in my mind. The researchers here says, and I'm going to leave this with the viewers to at least take time to practice. There is a research that says listening to 20 minutes of classical music. Not only that, they have made an additional recommendation. This is not from us, it's from the book that we have been reading. I was really taken back when I read that.
As you were sharing with me.
And I thought, wow, so there is something very important. For example, for me, as I said, I've lost my dad, and that is still a deep scar in my mind. And whenever I think that, I get emotional. The researchers here say, when you are listening to classical music, consciously thinking of those thoughts is going to help us or help me come out of that depressive thoughts.
You mean consciously thinking about the classical music?
No. Listening to classical music and consciously thinking about the things,
event,
the
Yeah.
event,
the loss,
the
or
loss,
thing.
or yes.
Let me read what they have written here.
Yeah.
The only requirement is that the individual think of areas of concern in their lives, and keep their imagination active during the listening to the classical music. This was very eye-opening to me. I've never known this.
We have sometimes listened to music, but not necessarily
Yeah.
thought about struggles in our life or the bad events or whatever we are processing in our life to actually think about those things as we are listening.
Yeah, definitely. I think probably the reason they have put this one here, I feel that when we are actively thinking of those area, probably our brains are activated at that
Yeah.
point. So, for example, just thinking, if that is an area where I have stored my father's death and I'm actively listening, my brain is going to be influenced by the classical music, and it helps that negative thought to be corrected or disappear as days go
So if
by.
I understand very clearly
Yeah.
from what Curie says and how you say, if I understand, there is a wrong, painful memory in the brain,
Yeah.
and the more you listen to classical music, it's going to slowly move the pain away, and it's going to fill your brain with joy and with good memories. Is it so?
Something like that. Yes, you've got, yeah, something like what you're talking about, Charles. But they're saying when you're listening, so your ears are listening. I don't know much about brain and brain function, but what I hear, what I listen, or what I read from here is, as we are listening to the classical music and we are consciously thinking, for example, childhood trauma, or you've lost a parent,
Or a
you're
loved one.
thinking of it. I don't know what happens in the brain level, into the neuron level, but there's something happens, interferes, and it actually helps us to
It brings healing.
healing. That's right.
It helps our mood better.
Yeah.
Maybe it rejuvenates our body and
That's
brain
right.
and brings positivity.
Yeah, so as we are, so maybe many times we are ruminating of the things that we
Yeah,
are
that's
thinking of what has
exactly the
happened.
same word, ruminating.
Ruminating, we're thinking, as we've used that before. We're thinking, and at that time you can't do anything else. Maybe it's at that time we need to play some music, and as we're thinking of that, the music will help us to get out of that state that we are stuck in, because we can't get out of it. We feel like we are, that's it.
Okay, yeah, I'm a nurse, so let me. As you were saying, something came into my mind. There is a wound. You apply the balm or the ointment to the wound.
Yep.
There's no benefit if you apply that ointment to somewhere else.
Yeah, good point. And
You
so
get-
that classical
So
Yeah.
ointment should be applied on the wound so it won't get
Yeah.
healed. It's similarly in our brain.
Yes,
There is a wound.
exactly.
So the ointment is the music,
That's
the
right.
classical music.
That's right.
Exactly.
Well said.
Wow, that's
Awesome.
Good
that's
point.
good. Yeah,
Good
we get it.
illustration.
Yeah,
Good
that's a good conversation that we have had, and especially on music. And I thank Kay, I thank Russell and Charles, and
Thank you as well, Joseph.
yeah, you're welcome. I think this is an eye-opening time for us. Like, this is something very important for all of us, because in our lives, not only to the viewers who are seeing, but we in our own lives, we all as human beings go through many circumstances in our lives, and we take music just as a recreation. But we need to value music, that music can heal us.
Yeah.
It is not a physical healing that we can see. It is actually a brain healing. So I want to advise, or I want to encourage each and every one of you who are watching, probably today or probably tomorrow or the years to come, that you will benefit especially from classical music. And if you are someone who is really suffering from depression and you want to get in touch with us, please do contact us. And we have our contact number. Initially, when we started the program, we put our contact number there. You can either contact us through the number, or you can comment in the YouTube channel. We are always there. We would love to help you, and we would love to get in touch with you. If there's anything that we can help, we will refer you to people. We always advise you to seek medical help or health practitioners' help. If you've got depression and if you're struggling with things, please take this as an educational recommendation rather than a treatment for you. We hope you be in good health, and you will have a wonderful day today. Thank you everyone for being part of this program
Thank you,
today.
Joseph.
Thank you.